Okay, we're live and we're back. This is the part two of my healing story, the last decade or so of my life. I am in Wyoming right now, in the Wind River Range. That's what's behind me. Beautiful mountain range. And yeah, just a really good, amazing healing place out here with tons of sunlight. As you can see, I have my sunglasses on today. Um, yeah, so basically this is part two, so we're just picking up with where I left off last time. um, yeah, last time I kind of took you from the age of 18 to roughly 25, about 7 years of my journey. um, and a lot of that was spent just um, drinking, especially from 18 to 21, 22. I was drinking a lot. I was kind of just making my whole situation worse. And really at like 23 is when I hit the severe constipation and severe fatigue and severe gut issues and even worsening of depersonalization, brain fog, and everything. So from 23 on is when I really started to take things more seriously, started to try different diets, started to see different doctors, conventional medical doctors, IBS, trying to treat that, predominantly psychiatrists, therapists. Started to go that whole route, was on and off antidepressants, as I mentioned, um, and was trying everything from carnivore to keto to fruitarian to basically tomatoes, potatoes, bananas. Yeah, that's what I ate for practically 2 or 3 months. And, learned a lot in that time. Obviously tried all these different supplements and was seeing naturopaths and getting testing done, stool testing, saliva testing, urine tests, blood tests, everything. But really, the next chapter really starts when I tried this water fast. Because I kind of thought I knew everything at that point, and I was just kind of being arrogant and just sort of a cocky bastard, if you will. I was just thought I knew how to do everything, thought I had it under control, and then I really was humbled by this water fast. And that's what I want to talk with you guys about now. And I'll be moving my head to adjust for the sun. I'm going to try to block the sun here, keep everything backlit. Okay, so the water fast. I was looking on YouTube, Tanglewood Wellness Center. I was seeing videos from Lauren Lockman, and him and his whole fasting clinic and everything. And I was talking to people who had done fasting before and looking into it. And I was just so sick of supplements, testing, dieting. I was like, you know what? If I can just drink water for 3 weeks straight, all my problems go away. That's how it should be. It should be primal like that. That's really, we just got to go back to nature here and just, I just got to starve myself and get rid of all the toxins and give my gut a rest and give everything a rest and reset and just a full sort of cleanse from the inside out. And so, yeah, I started the water fast, maybe 3 weeks before Thanksgiving. Actually, around this time, it's just about Thanksgiving right now. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving, so by the way, happy Thanksgiving. If you're seeing this video, you'll probably be seeing this at some point in November, early December. Happy holidays. So I start the water fast, and I'm working at this point. I'm teaching tennis, right? So I'm living at home with my parents. I'm trying to figure out my health issues. I'm teaching tennis at this local tennis center. I played varsity tennis in high school and almost went to college for tennis. So that's really the main thing that I had. I went to college for film, but I just wasn't able to pursue film at this point. I felt too sick. So I was teaching tennis and just trying to hold down this and some other part-time jobs here and there. And it wasn't working a ton, maybe 20, 30 hours a week at best. And a lot of that was just half-assed. So I remember, the first couple days just being so, like, this was not an easy fast. I'd done 3-day fast, 5-day fast before this with not a terrible amount of struggle. This one in particular was very difficult, and it started off difficult. From day one, I was starving. I was drinking filtered Berkey water, and the only thing I was adding in occasionally was trace mineral electrolytes, but that was it. So it was essentially just water. Because if I was drinking spring water, I'd be getting the equivalent of, some calcium, some magnesium, some sodium, some potassium, potentially, some chloride. So I was adding in some trace minerals, but really that was it. It's just water. So, 3 or 4 days into it, I remember I'm there teaching tennis, and I have this high performance clinic with these college kids, and a lot like some really intense rallies, some really intense tennis I had to play, and I was super tired and fatigued, and it was really just amazing. When I think back at that, it's really just amazing and a testament to how, if you need to get something done, it's amazing what your body can actually do to rise to the occasion. And actually, by the end of this, I actually felt like I was like, oh, I feel like I have some energy back. I feel good. I was sweating. I was moving. I was like, I got this. And then, a few hours later, I'm like on the couch, just back into my fasting mode, just super tired. I was like having my mom heat up like a warm pack for me so I could put it on my stomach. And I was so cold all the time. Oh my God, I was so hungry and so tired and strung out and so cold and so stressed. I was just like, I just needed my parents to help take care of me. The one nice part is I didn't have to worry about preparing or cooking any food. But in the grand scheme of things, this proved to be, these 3 weeks were actually some of the most difficult weeks of my entire life, I think, because I was already so nutritionally starved going into this fast, and so depleted and so messed up in so many ways that this is like the last thing my body needed. And so anyways, I'm going through this fast. I'm lying on the couch most of the day. I'm looking at videos that are telling me, this guy, Loren Lockman, and other people saying like, don't move, just stay still, let your body rest and recover. So I'm literally atrophying, if that's a word. My muscles are going into atrophy, and I'm losing, let's see, it was 3 weeks. I lost about 2 pounds a day, about 40 pounds total by the end of it, which is a little more than usual. I think you'd usually lose about a pound a day. That's what most people would say. And people with generous fat stores and who are nutrient dense, they can generally tolerate water fasting better. And, plenty of people do 9, 10-day water fast, 14-day. Very rare that people go beyond, 2-week fast to 3 weeks and beyond. But people do tolerate fasting to a degree, and it can help some people. I'm not knocking fasting entirely, but I am saying, in my experience, I was literally just like losing everything. I remember like my face was caved in. I was pale, big rings under my eyes, and I could feel my ass bones when I sat down, because with with your buttocks, you have some fat there, and most people do, just about everybody. When you lose all of that fat, it is a very strange feeling to sit down and be like sitting on your bones. That was actually kind of terrifying. And I remember just feeling the whole time, though, I just kept holding on to this hope that things would be better once I started the refeeding process, once I started to introduce fruit again, and once I started to kind of get things moving again and flushing out all of the plaque and shit that was in my GI tract, like I'd feel better. So I held on to this hope, and that hope, it was actually unbelievable how much that hope was almost like a placebo that got me through. Like I felt like I was healing as I was going on this journey, this 3 weeks, even though I was starving the whole time. And that night I could hardly sleep because my heart's pounding and there's adrenaline racing and telling my body, you need to eat, go get food. And I just wouldn't. I refused. I just kept refusing. My will at this point was so strong. I feel like my will was stronger at this point in my life than any other time ever. Like, I don't think my will is this as strong as it was then. Now I feel weaker compared to then in terms of my will. My health is obviously better, but it was just an amazing experience that I was able to push through such amazing depths of hunger that I'd never experienced before. And even water started to just taste like I craved water. I was drinking a lot of it, but I was like I could start to taste the water. Like my taste buds were changing in such a way that I wouldn't really be able to describe it. And so I'm getting through this fast, and maybe I'm at day, I don't know, 11 or 12 or so. And I'm like barely getting through work. And my boss comes up to me. He's like, Jake, go eat a fucking cheeseburger. Excuse my language. Um, and I was just like, no, like I have Lyme, I have gut issues, I have all this stuff. I'm gonna heal it with this fasting. And everyone at my work, including my boss, was just like, you look terrible. Like you are barely getting by in your tennis lessons. Like I actually, that's what I thought internally. They actually didn't say that. Everyone thought I was performing well, actually, which was to my surprise. My internal dialogue was like, you're barely getting through. Like you got to step it up. Like there's just sort of this negative voice that was always in my head that was sort of pushing me through to do this. That was like, you know, perhaps driving the whole thing was like, you have to heal, you have to do this. Not necessarily negative, but just this sort of feedback loop that was pushing me to just to go further and further into this experience, and did, like I said, help me hold on to the hope that things would get better and heal. So yeah, it's just crazy what you do when you get this desperate. So maybe 2 weeks in, I have like 1 week left, and Thanksgiving's coming up. I'm obviously not thinking about eating a lot at Thanksgiving, or eating anything really, because I'm watching videos, I'm looking at testimonies of people who have done this, and the refeeding process is very, 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 has to be very carefully done. They always say that for the amount of time you're fasting, so let's say you fast for 10 days, the refeeding process should be half of the fast, so 5 days of refeeding. And what is refeeding? Starting with very high water content foods. So you start with coconut water, watermelon, which is like 92% water, and then you can work your way down to more to less foods that are more fibrous and have less water content potentially, mangoes, kiwis, apples, that sort of thing, and then working your way down into like vegetables and into soups and stews and that sort of thing. Over for me, the refeeding process is like 10 days. So not only do I have this 3 weeks of absolute agony and torture, then I have the refeeding process. And I remember, so like it's like day 20, day 21. It's like right at the end, and I am emaciated. It's cold outside. It's winter setting in New Jersey, and I am just. I mean, my anxiety is through the roof. I'm like buzzing. I'm just craving food so badly. And I remember actually, I broke the fast, meaning like the first thing that I ate, I actually went to Mass in the morning and received the Eucharist, so a little host. And I remember tasting it, and it was just the taste. Like I'd never tasted anything like that before in my entire life. And that was a strategic decision to break the fast with, the body and blood, this very, very small host, which is, gluten and just a little wafer that's then transformed into the body and blood of Christ. And that that tasted just so out of this world. Like think about, I mean, it's like the taste of a Manila wafer. No, not even like that. That's like too much flavor. This is the taste of like, think of the most bland cracker you could think of. And although it's not actually that, it's transubstantiated, the taste of it is like that. And I couldn't comprehend what was going on with my taste buds. Like it tasted like, I wouldn't want to say like a dinner, but it was like way more than just a piece of bread. I mean, it tasted like there was an explosion in my taste buds, because my taste buds had become hyper sensitized to anything, really. I mean, even water. And I remember rushing home after that and eating my first watermelon, and I could not control myself. I said I would only eat maybe a quarter of the watermelon or a half, and I just slurped down the whole thing, and I was shaking, and I was ready to literally eat like, I just wanted to go through the whole kitchen. My mom was there, and she was like, you got to slow down. And I went to get another watermelon. I remember my mom was like, that's probably not a good idea. So I waited and waited. I gave it a few hours. I got another watermelon, slurped it down, and I was just buzzing. Like I was just tingling. And it was absolutely surreal, the kind of things that were going through my head and how badly I wanted to just fucking eat. I mean, it was just, it tasted so good. I mean, like the most sugary, delightful, say, just like a watermelon tasted like everything to me. That's the only way I could describe it. And I just wanted more and more and more. But what I also noticed shortly after that was that the anxiety started to set in way worse. My depression got way worse. My depersonalization got way worse. That sense of hope started to fade as I realized this did not go as I planned. Like, the refeeding process should be gentle. It should be light. I should be given energy from these foods. And it was working the opposite way. I was almost having like a paradoxical reaction in some sense, where if I didn't get more food, I would just get more anxious and more anxious. And then when I ate, I would just get more anxious because I wanted more food. And my mind was in such a bad place. And I can say for sure, like, this was the most intense experience of my life, and probably the deepest low that I've ever experienced. I mean, I've had a lot of really, really rough moments, a lot of lows, a lot of really intense things happen, a lot of scary things happen. But this was by far the most intense, the greatest low that I was ever in. And for the next, I don't know how many days. I remember I went to Thanksgiving. I showed up to Thanksgiving. My face was caved in. My cousins were like, "Holy shit! Like, what is wrong with what happened to you?" You know, that's what they were asking me. And I was just sitting there eating like butter lettuce and bananas and plantains and papayas and watermelons. And they were like, "Dude, eat some freaking turkey, eat some chicken, eat some steak, eat something." And I was like, "I can't. Like, I just started the refeeding process." Actually, I remember the morning of Thanksgiving, I went for a run with my dad, and I couldn't run. Like, running's something I've done my entire life. I've never thought twice about it. And my legs were so weak. I was like, what the, like, I couldn't keep up with my dad, and I'm faster than my dad. And my dad's, 60 something at this point. And at this point I'm 26 or 25 or 26. And, no, actually I had turned 26 during this water fast. I'm just realizing that now. I don't know what I did for my birthday. I guess I drank a bunch of water. No birthday cake for me that year. So this just started like the next few months of just absolute insanity. And I went back to therapy. I was begging my therapist for an answer. I went to an internist. I considered going back on medications. Eventually I did. I had to go back on antidepressants. Sometime in December, I think around Christmas, I was like, fuck it, I just need to get out of this. But from basically Thanksgiving to Christmas, and a little bit beyond that, I'd say for 2 months straight, probably till mid-January, is when maybe the antidepressants started to kick in and I started to feel a bit normal again. Because I was so dependent and hooked on the antidepressants. My body needed them just to have a sense of normalcy. For about 2 months, I was nonstop panicking every moment of every day. And I was contemplating suicide. Not in a real way, just thinking to myself, like, I really wish I didn't do this. I really wish I wasn't here right now. So I guess I wasn't contemplating it, but I was thinking about it constantly. I'm like, I don't want to be here right now. And I did this to myself. And that feeling of like you ruined your own health, what the little health you had, you ruined it. That is a feeling that I cannot explain the grief of that feeling. Thinking that I was already in a bad place, and the bad place I was in, I decided to make it worse by something that I did on my own accord. I couldn't forgive myself, and I was just laying on the couch for days, just anxiety ridden. I was trying to get out and work, and I was working still. Same things were happening at work. Everyone was like, dude, you do not look well. Something's not right. And I was just like, I'm working on it. I'm trying to get out of this. But I felt like I had terminally screwed myself for the rest of my life. And I was never going to gain my weight back. I was never going to be okay again because I couldn't digest anything. That was the other thing. And my bowels were still not moving. And I became incredibly bloated as soon as I started eating again. My stomach distended back out like another foot. And I had like one bowel movement that was kind of black, and that was kind of like what was supposed to happen, right? I'm getting rid of all this plaque and all this bad stuff over the course of 3 weeks. But it was a weak bowel movement, and then I went right back to not being able to have any bowel movements. And I eventually had to revert to coffee enemas because my bowels weren't moving. And yeah, I just remember like not being able to run. I couldn't do a push-up, like a singular push-up I couldn't do. I would go down and just like break, and my chest would just hit the ground. And that was like, all of these things were just one trauma and shock after another, just leading me to like, I just ruined my entire life. And I think the worst part of it all was that I did it to myself. And I didn't have anyone to guide me out of it. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm trying all these natural remedies. Maybe I just go back to the regular Western medical system. And so I go and get blood work done. And this doctor tells me that everything looks perfect in my blood work. And I am just sitting there like, you gotta be kidding me, man. Like, just tell me one thing. Just tell me I'm deficient in a couple of areas that'll at least make me feel better. Like I'm starving, I'm emaciated, I can't digest food. Tell me something's wrong with me. Don't tell me everything's okay. Because the fact that you're telling me everything's okay is actually, I don't want to say it's adding insult to injury. It just confused me even more. I'm like, how could I, is this all in my head? Like what is, it can't be. It can't be because I can't have a bowel movement. I don't have energy. I can hardly function. And so I was just perplexed. I think everyone was just perplexed at this moment, at this time. My family was. My mom couldn't forgive herself for letting me do this. My dad was like, dude, you got to stop eating. Because all I would do, I would come home from work, right? And I would spend 5 hours, I'm not even kidding, I'd spend 5 hours making all this different food. I'd blend up some Vega 1 protein powder, I remember. I'd do some nut butter, I'd do some almond milk, I would put spinach in there, I'd make like this big smoothie, right? Then I was eating the weirdest things like Jerusalem artichoke hearts, jicama. I was like eating like, I was eating the weirdest shit. I don't know what I was thinking at that time. And then I was cooking like tomato sauce with some potatoes, and then I was doing chickpea pasta, like definitely more in the plant-based mindset. I was like, my body's not ready to digest heavy meats or proteins or anything like that. But I don't know what I was thinking. Actually, I wasn't thinking rationally at all. I was just eating stuff and thinking that if I ate cool, hip, nutritious, plant-based foods, I'd be okay. Wrong. And I would be eating for hours on end. And my dad would be like, if you eat more, your stomach is going to explode and you're going to die. And what actually happened one night, my dad cut me off. Right? I'm 26 years old. Right? Like I'm off my parents' insurance at this point in my life. And my dad is sitting there going, you're cut off from our food. So he thinks I'm going to explode my stomach by all the food I'm eating. So I run into the basement and I grab some MREs from these might have been MREs from like the 90s or 80s. I don't even know. Meals ready to eat, like army food. And I'm like ripping open the MREs and eating this pasta and like this like freeze-dried food. And I'm putting like little Tabasco packets on it. And I'm eating the desserts and I'm eating the little cookies. And like, I don't know what I was eating, but I was just eating and eating. And my brother came downstairs and he was like, dude, what are you doing? I was like, dude, I don't care. Like, I just need calories. And so I was back on the antidepressants and things are actually starting to improve, right? Because what's happening is my serotonin is starting to be regulated again. My gut's starting to become regulated again. What I realized is that my body was actually dependent on digestion. Like my digestive system was dependent on the serotonin and the meds. Like it was so hooked. Like I needed the meds for my stomach to function properly, which sounds crazy, but it's true. Because each time I go back on the meds, right, I would have this benefit. Like my gut would feel better. And so essentially, at this point, I'm starting to feel a little bit better. And I'm starting to feel like I'm recovering. And I'm not realizing that this is actually related to the antidepressants. I'm actually thinking that like the celery juice I was drinking, all of the foods I was eating, the cold therapy I was doing, and just the sheer amount of calories I was getting every night was unbelievable. Like I would eat a full dinner. Like eventually I started to eat a bit more normal, started to probably incorporate some more protein. I'd eat a full meal and then I'd like eat like 5 Larabars with peanut butter for dessert. It was wild. Like I was in awe with how much I could eat. But I'm like running again, I'm lifting again. This is like a couple months later and I'm like starting to actually gain back weight. But I didn't realize that weight and that health that I was starting to gain back was actually because of the antidepressants, and my body started to regulate again because of the antidepressants, because I was so addicted to them, because I needed them. And so, yeah, we're coming up, well, we're past time here. It looks like, what are we, oh no, we're at 25 minutes right now. So I'm trying to make each of these parts just 30 minutes. And the next part I'm going to get into really like what happened after the fast, and then what happened with me getting off antidepressants for the last time, and how I came to that conclusion that I needed to, the research I did, and then basically from 26 to 31, which is really like the last 5 years of my life. I'm basically going to try to summarize all of that into the last 30-minute video. There's a lot to cover there. But essentially, backtracking, we're in January now. February-ish is when I start to feel better from going back on the meds, which I started sometime in December, right? So 2 months into the meds, I'm starting to feel better. 3 months in, it's March. Actually, shutdown happens, COVID happens, which was actually nice. It worked out in my favor. I kind of wanted to be at home more and to just focus on working out and gaining back my muscle and eating and cooking and all that stuff. So I'm out of work. It's COVID times, and I'm on I don't know, I think it was 80 milligrams of Prozac, which is incredibly high, dangerously high. I mean, the psychiatrists that put me on that, really shame on them. I mean, they might not know how dangerously high that is, but that is that's a beyond max dose of Prozac. And I did start to feel better, which just showed I had a severe dependency and addiction to antidepressants, and, baseline, my serotonin and dopamine and GABA, all those things were probably dysregulated before the antidepressants as well. I'm not saying I didn't have underlying issues. It's just that the addiction was so strong, I started to feel so much better with these meds. And that was actually a surreal experience, kind of coming out of this fasting stage, eating a lot more and feeling better and being on this high dose of meds. I was actually in a pretty decent place, and started to think again, and started to be creative again, and started to, think about my next business, which is the business that I have now. It was interesting to kind of come out of that. And it was a great relief. And I felt a lot better. But it certainly was not the end of the journey. What I thought was the end of the journey, I thought I had cured my fasting, my illness. I thought maybe I had come out of the fasting and everything got better because I eventually recovered, right? The fast actually worked, and all of the foods I was eating and all the things I was doing, all the cold therapy, the breathing, I got really into the Wim Hof method at this time. Actually, that's the last thing I'll say. It was pretty wild. When I was that skinny, I was, 140 pounds, and I was doing Wim Hof when I was fasting. I could hold my breath for 6-7 minutes, no problem. It was actually unbelievable. That I can't quite explain why or how that happened. But my body wasn't spending a lot of time on digestion, so a lot of energy on digestion, so I had extra to sort of expend in other places. So yeah, so I thought the Wim Hof that I was doing, the celery juice I was drinking, the foods I was eating, the fast that I did, I thought all those things had a cumulative effect, and I was like, wow, I healed myself. I'm coming out of it. This is great. And yeah, at that age, at 26, I had barely even started to learn anything at that point, really. This was just the beginning. And the next chapter will be, like I said, the next 5 years of my life, from the age of 26 to 31. So yeah, I hope that this video wasn't too scatterbrained. I'm just trying to make this raw and sort of off the top of my head without any editing or scripts or anything. I'm just kind of stream of consciousness speaking. So I hope it was helpful. I hope you guys got a lot out of this. I hope you liked it. And I hope you stick around for the next video. And I don't care if you like or subscribe to this channel. I just want you to get as much out of this information and content as possible, and I hope you can relate to it. And that's pretty much it. So thank you guys for listening. Take care, and I will see you in the next video.